It
Praying
takes,
my dog's quiet.
who cares?
I
Yeah,
know.
it's fine.
Same old thing.
Yeah, I know. It takes a few minutes, so hopefully this will connect soon. So, here we go. Okay. All right, here we go. Hi.
Awesome.
I'm
Hi.
so excited to have you here. For those of you joining, I have my friend Christine, who's a fellow jeweler. We're going to have a fun little conversation about
Yeah.
all things jewelry, what inspires her, and how she got started as a jeweler, and tell her story. So,
Yeah.
um,
Well,
go
thank
ahead.
you for having me. As you know, you are just somebody who inspires me every day. So,
Oh, thank you.
it's such an honor to be here with you and
Thank
chat again.
you. Thank
Yeah.
you. I feel so connected to you, and I know we've only met
I know.
online. I feel like we have kind of been on the same journey
Yeah,
in the sense
I
of
agree.
using our jewelry as a healing modality as well as part of a self expression.
Yeah,
So, I would love for you to share who you are and what you do, just because I think you
sure.
probably can explain that way better than I could. So we'll start off with that.
Yeah, so my name's Christine Mighion. As Anne said, I am a jewelry artist. I started off more as a almost like a jewelry designer slash maker, and really fell in love with the process and thought that I would kind of take my brand to the next level. And when I got there, I became really burnt out and just kind of back down a little bit. And through the last few years, I've really slowed my process down and I focus a lot on my craft. I create jewelry with silver and gold, and I'm really drawn to the more organic stones. And yeah, one of my newest passions is starting a podcast, as you've been on. So, Anne was on the Slow Made podcast, and it's a podcast where we celebrate jewelry artists who really are in love with the craft, with the process. And yeah, just I love sharing their stories. They're always so inspiring to me. I think I get more from it than I actually give.
Oh, it's so fun. You're a great interviewer too. So I loved being on your podcast. So I just want to back up a little bit. Can you explain a little bit more when you said you started out as a jewelry designer? Did that mean, do you mean that you were designing for a company and then they were doing the producing of it, or you were just doing a bigger line in manufacturing so that you could wholesale it?
So I was that's why I say jewelry designer slash maker. I was still making everything, but what I had done was taken my jewelry to a certain point. And I was selling on Etsy to start off because that's where we all kind of got started from when you didn't know how to sell your work, and a couple shops. And then it quickly grew, and that's when Etsy was really, really good to sell on, and they were really supportive of the artist. And so at one point, I'd say about 2.5, 3 years in, I hit my first six-figure year. So I thought, okay, we're doing pretty good here. Let's go ahead and see what else we can do. And so the next step for me, and not having the support or the guidance, was to hire a publicist. And so she helped refine my brand. She set me up with a graphic designer. We worked through the image of the brand. And then ultimately, she started pitching to press. And then my work was in magazines all over the world. And so I began to quickly grow. Though, I think press is one of those things that's really long term. It's not an overnight sensation. And it can be very, very costly. But what happened for me is I got to a point where I got burnt out and I needed to hire somebody to help me with production And I suddenly figured out that I did not like that idea at all. I wanted to make everything with my hands because for me, that was the beauty in it. That was the art. And I just figured at that point that I was probably thinking more like an artist than I was a designer. And so slowly I began to scale back my wholesale accounts. I did not enjoy production work. I did not enjoy making quarterly collections. And it's one of those things too when you're working in gold and diamonds, and if a collection doesn't do well, you're kind of sitting on it.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that's really, really hard. And I just I scaled back. It was hard. It was a hard change, honestly, for my ego more than
Right.
anything. You build something and then you pull back. So we ended up taking in my husband's uncle who is in his last year of life. And that really caused me to slow down. And it kind of gave me the permission I needed just to step back. And I began creating, when I had time, pieces that meant a lot to me. That I didn't have to sit here and worry about who's going to buy it or is this going to be, something that's successful. And yeah, I just kind of fell back in love with my craft again and starting to formulate how to do business my way.
That's beautiful. What a beautiful journey you've had. Um,
Yeah.
from, huge success and then deciding that that's not the path you want to go.
Yeah.
And do you think that was also because, as you go through life, you start valuing different things? Like, when you first
Sure.
start, you think, oh, this is what's going to make me happy. And then you start doing it and you realize like
Right.
doing lots of production work isn't fun.
Yeah. I went into it. I was a dental hygienist by trade, and my husband is a dentist. And after our second child, I broke my tailbone giving birth to him. And so I
Wow.
really couldn't sit down for a long time, but I
Wow.
did not want to go back. I wanted to stay home with my kids. And so my motivation at that point was I needed to make more money than I could in dentistry, and that's a lucrative field.
Right.
So I needed to do that and then to prove to my family that what I was doing was worthwhile and was a business, and that took a while to do that. I mean, there's a whole lot of stigma from going from a successful career to now you're in the arts, and so that was a big part of my motivation. And then once I really, was able to slow down and see what it was that lit me up, then, I was able to change. But I do see, to your point, I often see a lot of artists on the journey that at a certain point in their life, they're trying to build their business up. Then they start really looking at what is it that makes them happy with it. And then suddenly you kind of let go of everything that's put on you
Right.
and, how you're supposed to do things. And you just say, this is how I'm doing it. This fits my life, my values, what's important to me. And you start moving in that direction. So it's a really freeing place to be.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I also have gone through that too, right?
Mhm.
Um, I did a lot more wholesale originally, and I realized I really didn't like it. And I
Yeah.
personally, I think you like this too, is when you do online sales or you do shows, it's the one-on-one interaction and the
Yep.
connection and being able to tell that story of why the piece came about, what it means to you. It's
Yeah.
um it's very what am I trying to say? It's a really nice connection you have with someone when you make that special piece or you make a
Yeah.
piece and then you can share that story with someone and then they share how it makes them feel. It feels so much more intimate than for wholesaling because I don't get
Yeah.
that immediate interaction. I'll get it with the store owner or the buyer, but it's which is also really nice, but it's just different when it's the direct consumer that you get that connection with.
Sure. And you do such a beautiful job of sharing your story and the meaning behind your work. And I think that that's something that The owner of a store may know your story, but to hear it from you and you see the glow in your face or you hear your words, that makes all the difference. That can easily change, a looker to somebody who really wants to collect your work.
Right, right. Yeah, for sure. So, for anyone who's just joining, I have my friend Christine on, and she is a fellow jeweler too. So, we're just talking all things
Yeah.
jewelry. If you have a question for her, please put it in the comments, and we would love to answer any questions you guys have. We've gotten some funny comments. Someone said they're mopping their floor while they're listening to us, which I love. I love that.
Yes,
Multitasking. So, yeah,
absolutely.
please let us
Absolutely.
know what you're doing. We love that. Um, so, anyways, I would love to know, like, what is your inspiration behind your work?
Oh gosh.
How do you start your piece? Are you a sketcher? Do you go from? I mean, what's your concept?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't always know the inspiration
Yeah.
behind my piece. I have a bench that I'm really not happy unless there's a lot of material on it. And so sometimes I might have a vague idea of what I would like to do, or I see, maybe a stone or something or a combination, and I think that's what I want to do. I am not a sketcher. I tried that, and funny enough, that's what I did. That's kind of how that was my gateway into the arts. I sketched, I drew. I loved fashion, and so I would draw models and jewelry. And but when it came time to actually create my own pieces, I found that every time I would sketch something out, it just landed flat for me. And then I would get in there and work, and something else would catch my eye. And then I'd completely go down a different path. So for me, it's a feeling. It's something that really connects inside my soul. A lot of times it's the colors that I'm drawn to. It's the stone, it's the organic inclusions, it's the combinations. And I always say it's almost like there's a whisper in my ear saying, okay,
Oh,
now
I
add
love that.
this, add this. And it's a process that feels like you're actually birthing a piece. It can take a long time. And I don't always know where it's going. And sometimes that can be a little frustrating, but God, the end result always makes me happy.
Yeah, I love that. There's two things that I love that you just said. One is that you have to have your bench full of stuff because that's me too.
Yeah.
I'm envious of designers who are very organized and their bench looks really clean.
Yeah.
When I'm designing, there's crap all over, not just on my bench, but the entire studio. And it looks like a hurricane came through. And
Yeah.
there's something about like I need stuff around me when I'm designing
Yeah.
because it's creative chaos. Really, is what it is
Mhm.
for
Exactly. Exactly.
and sometimes, I don't know if this happens to you, but sometimes when I'm designing and I have my idea sitting there germinating and I put it down, if it's in front of something that I'm not expecting it to work with, it sparks something and I'm like, oh, that might work. And then I put it in
Yeah.
or I use it. And it's those unexpected moments, I think, that
Yeah.
really changes the outcome of what you design. So I don't
I
know.
agree completely. And that's almost like that whisper where it's just something catches your eye, something made you look at that, and it's just beautiful. It just works so well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that you don't sketch either because I thought I was the only artist who didn't sketch because, I see
No, there's
some
a
of these,
handful of us, it seems like.
I know, I see some of these jewelers who make these beautiful sketches and I'm like, oh my God, I can't even draw a straight line, let alone
Yeah,
like so
sure.
it's never really worked for me. And in terms of designing, it's like, it's for me, it's like that creative, that space. I call it creative zen, and
Absolutely.
it's like you
Mhm.
get in this space where you're not thinking and you're just doing, and it's like your
Yes.
whisper. It's your
Yeah.
whisper in your ear, and that's when you said that, it really resonated with me. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's what happens to me too.
Yeah, we're two peas in a pod, I
I
think, when it
know.
comes to that because, yeah, I always talk, I talk a lot about it being almost like a spiritual practice for me.
For
You
sure.
know, some people meditate. I don't do as well meditating, but my head is quiet when I'm working, but it's excited at the same time, figuring out what's next, putting the piece together, taking time to slowly craft that piece, you
Hmm.
know.
Oh, we've gotten some great comments. Somebody, SSM Design, is teaching herself pearl and bead knotting, which is fabulous. I've never
Mhm.
do that. Um, and then she also says artists don't have a mess. We have ideas laying around. Oh, I love
Oh,
that.
I love that.
We
That's
don't
that
have a
is
mess. We're just ideas.
fantastic. I'm gonna
It's,
use that.
yeah, that's so good. That's so good. And Pro X artist says she doesn't sketch either. So yay, she's in our club.
Yes. Yeah, I know who that is. She's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. So for those of you who are just joining, Christine does have a website. You can see her work on her website, and I will
Mhm.
post it in the comments so you guys can go check her out.
Yep.
She also has a fabulous podcast called Slow Made Podcast, and so
Yep.
you can also listen in. She interviews so many fabulous artists, and so
Including
you
you.
thank you. So if you're looking for some jewelry artists or to be inspired, whether you're a maker or
Mhm.
you're a customer, it's a great resource. And
I agree, and well, of course I agree because it's my podcast. But one of the motivations for me starting the podcast is, you do see the big name jewelers. You see them everywhere, and you see if you're a lover of jewelry or you are a metalsmith yourself, the gallery artists. They get a lot of visibility, and there's so many of us that I think are just so incredibly good at our craft, creative, and just maybe those models aren't the right fit for you. They weren't for me. And so I wanted to shine a light on that. And just from me doing this, I've been introduced to so many amazing artists. I mean, there'll definitely be an abundance for quite a while to interview, but it's
yeah,
so neat to hear everyone's journey. um we all kind of have this one gateway in some way, but it's just been really inspiring for me, and it also helps me feel a little less alone because I didn't choose some of those paths, or I walked back on the business model that I was thought that I needed to, kind of go down in order to be successful. You know.
you know what I love about your podcast. One is I get to hear from other artists, and you're right. It doesn't feel so lonely when somebody's talking
Hmm.
about their journey. And two, there's a couple things about the podcast that's really empowering. Two is it's teaching us that there is no right way to do it.
Right.
Everybody has their own way to do it.
Right.
And I'm this is something that I'm really working on with myself. I've always thought that I had to do things the right way, and I'm realizing
Sure.
there is no right way, and you have to trust yourself and do it the way that makes sense to you.
Yeah.
And I've been, that's just how I was raised. You went from A to B to C to D, and
Sure.
you didn't go any other way. So um, I think that's really powerful. Is your stories help other artists see that there is no right way. You just have to figure it out yourself.
Yeah, you have to figure out what works for you, and I think that that's almost a disservice in the coursework geared towards jewelry artists, um, and other handmade makers that really want to start a business could do quite well, but some of the things like the constant um, push to wholesale or to hit some bench number with your sales, um, or even the really canned emails. One of the things I love about your email marketing is it's always very personal. It's not super heavy, so it's easy to go through, it's easy to connect with you and see what you're doing. Where oftentimes you're taught these models and it doesn't feel right, to many of us.
Mhm.
So I think that it's been so good to hear what's working for other people as well, in their businesses and what their challenges are, because there's so many of us that just feel alone in our challenges.
It's so true. There's power in community
Mhm.
because I have suffered in silence for so long that thinking it's just me, I can't do this, I can't do that,
Sure.
or I'm doing something wrong. Here I am going down the path of what I'm
Yeah.
supposed to do. But really, when you share your story and you say, I'm struggling with this,
Mhm.
and then somebody else will say, oh my God, me too. And then you sit in a room and you brainstorm with them. It's really powerful. Or
Yeah.
even just even if you don't come up with an idea, just being seen and heard from somebody else who
Yeah.
understands what you're talking about,
Yeah.
it lifts that whole like cloud on
I
you,
agree.
and it
I
makes a
agree.
huge difference. The other thing that I love about your podcast is it's showcasing that you can be a jewelry artist and make a living. Because, there's such a
Mhm.
stigma out there that, we're starving artists
Right.
and we'll never make money and we can never make a career out of it. And you can, like, you
Yeah.
really can do it. And I think the most powerful thing about being a jewelry artist and having a business is choosing what's important to you and your own path, and that you don't have to do like what you're saying is like this is the way to
Yeah.
success. You have to figure out what's important to you, where your values lie, and who your brand is and where
Sure.
you want it to be. So I think that's
Yeah.
really empowering.
I do know, there's people who are always going to like fast fashion. They can get
Mhm.
it, and or they're going to connect with a brand because of the name. It makes them feel good. We all have our own reasons, for purchasing. But I believe, and I've known this, just over the years in my own craft, that there are so many people who really love handmade work.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean that, handmade doesn't have to mean that it's shoddy in any way. That's why I keep using craft and craftsmanship a
Right.
lot, because I want to remind people that, this isn't just something we're sitting around doing and, you know, as a hobby, we're serious about our work, just as someone going into a 9 to 5 job would be. And in fact, we might have even more passion,
Exactly.
in that.
Exactly. There is a question here from T. Kiplinger. She wants to know um, how you're enjoying producing your podcast. That's a great
Oh
question.
my God, I love it, and I hope she comes on soon. That's why I've got my list of people I want to talk to, and it's growing all the time. I absolutely love it. There's been some hiccups because of some changes in format and whatnot, but once I get through that, it's flowing again. And I've I've tried so many different things over the years. I mean, I'm a licensed massage therapist. Forced bathing guide. I can do all sorts of things. But this is the one thing that I love almost as much as I love making jewelry,
Wow.
which is good because it takes a lot of time to do it.
Yes.
But it's been fantastic. And the times when, I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting kind of backed up. I need to get something done with my work. It doesn't bother me as much because I feel like this is so much of a passion project for me that, I thankfully I'm in a point in life where I can let the other go, if I need to.
Oh,
So
that's
yeah,
so
it's
great.
fun. It is so fun. And I've met so many fabulous people.
Well, and it shows that you enjoy it in your podcast.
Yeah.
Listen to
Yeah.
them and just your enthusiasm and the
Yeah.
questions you ask, you can tell that you really enjoy doing it.
Yeah. And it's been a real push. I've had other people, talk about, gosh, I'd love to start a podcast, but that's really scary for me. And I've joked many times on mine that, I still stumble. I still stumble through my words at times. I think I've stopped making up words, which is probably good. But it's easier every time you do it. And now I just look forward to seeing people kind of face to face virtually like this, where before I would have just rather hid in a corner.
Well, I think that was one of the few good things that came out of COVID, right? We were all
Sure.
forced to get on camera to stay connected with people, and now it's
Yeah.
just become a norm. So um, I think that's been good. A good way for us to stay connected is all these
Yeah.
face to face things. So SSM Design said the best advice she's ever gotten from an instructor is there are 100 ways of doing something, and none of them are wrong. That's
Yeah.
great advice.
I
Great
agree.
advice. That's great advice.
I think that's also the beauty with, those of us who are self-taught or, somewhat self-taught. We all kind of are taught by someone, but or some means, but you figure out a lot for yourself and you figure out things that work. And that's been a lot of fun, you know.
Mhm. So, when in everything that you've done, do you have a favorite process or um, yeah, a favorite process, like when you're making a piece of jewelry, what is your most favorite part of doing it?
I think it comes to that point where it's almost together.
Mm.
You can almost see, the piece coming to life. And then I love balance. I love color and texture. And so for me, adding little doodads and, little extra sparkle here and there, that's like putting that little spark of life in it for me. And so that's really, really fun. I have to say that's probably the best part for me when I get I would say maybe 80% done.
Oh,
But
that's
up until then, anything goes.
yeah. And how do you what do you do when you're designing something and you just feel stuck, like you can't get it to the place that you want it to be? What do you? Is there a process you use, or do you just let it sit?
I've felt that on more than one occasion, and especially recently. I think um, the summer has been a little tough because I've actually had to be away from the bench more, and that always kind of throws me. So for me, switching gears on a um, maybe doing something completely different, picking a different material. Like I was doing mostly mixed metals. Right now I'm in silver. I wouldn't think that I would have played with silver as much as I do right now. And just finding some play. But yes, I'll get stuck on a piece and it'll go into that pile on the bench. And it doesn't matter what part of the process it is. Sometimes I complete a piece and once it's all done, it just didn't translate to what I thought it was going to. It doesn't feel quite right, and I don't have any desire to put that out there. I mean, it could be a beautiful piece and someone would buy it, but it doesn't feel right to me. So, yeah, it goes back into a recycle pile. I'm gonna probably take the stone out some point or work something else in. But yeah, I have to switch gears a lot. I have to walk away from it. Um, if I'm really, really stuck, it might be a bench cleanup day, and then I find maybe a stone halfway through that I forgot about. And it's like,
Yeah,
there's that spark, you know? And I've been thinking a lot, like this summer, like I said, has been tough. It's been tough. I'm splitting my time between my house 3 days a week and our lake cottage. And so my studio time's down to maybe a day, which translates to about 4 hours. And then there's podcast time. That takes many hours to work through. So, I've actually thought about making objects and just,
nice.
doing some fun things. So we'll
Yeah.
see.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, what? How do you spend your free time? What inspires you?
Travel a lot. Um, my husband and I travel several times a year. And That always tends to give me a little inspiration. Uh, Colors. We're both divers too.
Oh,
And I
wow.
lived in Hawaii for years, so you could see it early on in my work. There would be more literal translations, but like right now, I'm working with some shells again. Just things that I found over the years. I like going into little shops and finding trinkets and whatnot, and I like finding things on the ground or at the beach and just holding on to them. And it's fun when I've had something in my personal collection for a long time and suddenly I see a piece of jewelry and I want to let it go into that. So yeah, travel is very, very inspiring to me. I need a lot of downtime in between too. So usually summer is that time where I'm just sitting in a float in the lake and quiet and things come to me. But the summer
Yeah.
hasn't been that. We haven't had a very nice summer, so that's not happening either.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that. Yeah, we have seasons, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Go up and down, up and down.
Yeah.
So, is there, where do you see your business going now? What do you think? What's your goal for the next 5 years? Where do you want to take it?
I'm in a really, really comfortable spot right now, and I could see it lasting for many years. I would like to I think, there's still that mental game every once in a while of especially with Instagram, I need to post so much. I need to do this. And I'm trying to step away from that and just really focus on the pleasure of making, and I want that to continue on. And I also see the podcast continuing to grow. I don't see letting go of that anytime soon. And with that, building a community platform, which I'm in the process right now to bring, metalsmiths and jewelry artists together to have that support
Oh, that's
and connection and kind of work on, like maybe mini mastermind where we're working on things that, really fit our business models, our personal business models. Even, one member might have one way of doing things and another one might have a completely different model, but things that we can take in that don't always show up in the courses that we sign up for. So I think it's just going to be more of that ease in my work and letting go of those shoulds and just letting things kind of grow organically. I hope within the next 5 years, I'll get to spend the winters away a little bit more. So we'll see how that goes, what that
that's
looks like. So
oh
yeah, there's kind of that push too to be able to scale down with my work as well.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
enjoy, yeah, have more time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Is there anything, as we wrap this up, is there anything, words of wisdom or something you would like to share that we haven't talked about yet?
Well, I think if I was thinking of words of wisdom, um, and thinking of my own jewelry, it's just really follow those gut hits. I don't feel like going down the path of, you know, working with a publicist and, you know, spending all that money. I don't feel that it was a wrong path for me to go down. I feel that it was an important path for me to go on because I knew that that wasn't what I wanted in the end. And that really helped focus um, yeah, my efforts towards my work. So I think listening to those voices in your head, listening to yourself, and if something doesn't feel right, if what someone said you should be doing doesn't feel right to you, you don't have to do that. I have tons of things that I will not do. I won't do shows. I won't do wholesale. And you can still do really, really well. I think it comes down to getting to know your customers and having those relationships and creating long-term relationships with people.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
That's so important. So,
Yeah.
oh, thank you so much for your time and
Oh,
being
thanks, Anne.
here. It's been really, really lovely.
It's always
Um,
a pleasure.
I will post in the comments your website
Sure.
and the Slow Made podcast. Is there anywhere else that somebody can find you? Where do you want? Where can they find you?
No, other than Instagram,
Okay.
and I think we're there. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, no, that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm on Pinterest too, but it's not just just me doing my thing.
Yeah.
But
Great.
yeah, those are you can actually you can find the podcast as well on my website. I have a link there,
Okay.
and also in Instagram. So yeah.
Great. Great. Thank you so much. It's always
Oh, thanks,
lovely to
Anne.
chat with you.
You
Hopefully someday
too.
we can meet in person. That's my
I
goal.
know. I can't wait. I really can't wait.
Yeah.
It's
All
great to
right.
see you.
You too. Enjoy your summer. Thank you for your
Thanks.
time.
You too.
Bye.
Bye bye.